Welcome to the Mrs. Silva Reading and Writing Show.
So we've been talking about tone of voice because how you say it and write it matters. I've told you guys all week that we say at our house, it's not what you say, it's the way you say it. And the same thing happens in writing. So we're going to talk about tone of voice, but we're going to shift it a little bit and talk about the purpose of tone of voice. So today's or this week's topic is I was clear about why I was writing so my voice is believable. What do you want the reader to think about when reading? Whenever you are reading a book, what does the author want you to think about while you're reading it? They always have a purpose. And we talked a little bit about purpose, and we use PIE for that. It could be to persuade, it could be to inform, or it could be to entertain. And while those are reasons that the author might write the book, but in the writing of the book, in the tone of the book, what do you want the reader to think about when they're reading the book? So looking at The Pet Shop Revolution by Anna Juan, what's the purpose? Is it a story about animals that are caged by a mean pet shop owner and then freed by the main character, a little girl named Mina? It is. It's a story. The whole story is how the pet shop owner is very sad and upset, and the animals are sad and upset, and Mina sees them and she's so sad for them. So her and her friend Bobo free the main character, are freed by them, and then everyone is happy at the end of the book. So what is the purpose of that? We know what the story is about, but what is the purpose? What does Anna Juan want you to think about as you're reading this book? So what's the author's opinion is where we're going to start about putting animals in cages. Do you think the author thinks it's right, or do you think that she thinks it's wrong to put animals in cages? Take a second to think about that. All right, so the author's purpose, the author's opinion about putting animals in cages, let's look at some of the things that she says in her book. And one of the big portions of her book says, Mr. Walnut's pet shop was dark and cold. He sold all kinds of animals, big, small, wild, timid, all different, but they all looked out of their small steel cages with sadness in their eyes. What do you think, based on just this text alone right here, the author's opinion about putting animals in cages is? All right, what are some details that support her opinion, or what you think her opinion is? We're going to take a look at those too. So, Mr. Walnut's pet shop was dark and cold. If something is dark and cold, it's not a happy place to be, is it? It's not somewhere that you're excited to go to like Disney World. No, it's dark and cold. You kind of get, the heebie-jeebies whenever you go near there. You don't want to go in. He sold all kinds of animals, big, small, wild, timid, all different, but they all looked out of their small steel cages with sadness in their eyes. So again, the animals are looking out of small steel cages. They're not even big cages. They're not enough for the animal to roll around in, with sadness in their eyes. So specifically sadness in their eyes. It's not a happy thing. So if you're looking at what's the author's opinion about putting animals in cages, well, it sounds like the author feels it's wrong to put them in cages. You can hear that tone and the purpose of her tone just by the words that she wrote. The pet shop was dark and cold. They all looked out of their small steel cages with sadness in their eyes. All of those details support the author's purpose in her tone, this tone supports the author's purpose and her opinion about putting animals in cages. So Mr. Walnut was upset, some different things about him. He was upset, he was angry, he was melancholy, he was unhappy. And at the end, he was hopeful and all of those things. And that is the way that Mr. Walnut was portrayed in the book. And that was his tone of voice in the book. And we know by the end of the book, the tone shift brought him to a more hopeful and happier time. But again, all of the tone that Mr. Walnut kind of produced, and what he said and the way that Anna Juan wrote him made it seem like not a happy thing. He was not even happy. So when our character conveys a certain tone of voice, it helps us to see the author's purpose. Mr. Walnut conveyed an upset, unhappy, angry, and melancholy voice, and then by the end of the book, a hopeful voice. But again, that upset, unhappy, angry, melancholy voice at the beginning of the book was when the animals were still in their cages. Then by the end of the book, he was hopeful because they were out of their cages and they were happier too. So we can tell the author's purpose and her opinion about putting animals in cages just based on the tone of the characters that she has in her book. So tone of voice, how you say it and write it, matters. And it tells your purpose in your writing. So as you're writing, you have to make sure that your characters are conveying what you're trying to get to your audience. So whoever's reading your paper is going to say, oh, wow, this author must have been trying to tell me that it is wrong for kids to have cell phones, or it is right for kids to have cell phones, based on the tone of voice or based on the purpose of their tone of voice, just like Anna Juan did in the Pet Shop Revolution. So it has been great to talk with you. Tomorrow's guest stars, we have 2 stars, will be appearing, and we'll hope to see you on the Mrs. Silva Reading Show to meet those 2 guests. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you for joining us for the Mrs. Silva Reading and Writing Show. We'll see you again later.